Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Perspective. We'll be talking, of course, about pursuant to the recent fuel increase, the rise in inflation, also, of course, the government's efforts to combat the kind of price hike inflation that is likely to be experienced, and the people, of course, are in the process of experiencing it. We'll be talking about the efforts at this time. The government is trying to do their best. What kind of efforts are they making? Also, we'll be talking about overall the political scenario in the wake of the economic crisis that the government has walked into. What are some of the measures the government is targeting? What kind of an effect are we likely to see in the next couple of months? All of that today on Perspective. I have with me Shakil Ahmed Rame, who is an economist. Thank you for joining us today. Dr. Idris Khwaja, who's also an economist. Thank you for being with us. We also have with us Kaisar Ahmed Sheikh, who's an M&A with PMLN. Thank you for joining us. And Dr. Salman Shah, who's a former finance minister. Thank you for being with us today. Shakil Sahab, we've been having this discussion before also. It's something we've been talking about for a while now. Of course, the last fuel increase also happened, and now this is the recent one. The kind of upheaval we are experiencing, the kind of reaction that we are experiencing, the government's narrative remains very clear. According to them, they say that this is because of agreements that were signed by the previous government, IMF agreements, pursuant to which they are forced to go ahead with these increases. Also, the global picture overall in terms of price hike, inflation, the recession now that is also being talked about in America, all of those things. But in a country like Pakistan, what kind of a scenario do you envisage now for our people, for us?
Look, the real problem, if you look at our economy, is the production sector, because purchasing power of people is very low. Right. Owing to most of the people, they don't have the jobs. The people who have the jobs, their salary is very low, right, and they are not competitive. One thing and second thing, that the salary is also is not increasing according to the inflation and depreciation in the dollar rate. So fundamentally, the weak economy or the weak fundamental of economies are creating these problems. If you look at this fuel prices or these things, all over the world, prices is higher. But the problem is, here in Pakistan, our purchasing power is not matching to the purchasing power of other countries, because we don't have the good production base. But we have the good import system. For example, last year, this year, the government, PTI government, they are celebrating. During their period, the growth rate was 5.97.
Was it 4.97 or 5.97?
5.97.
Okay.
But they are not telling people the major driver of this growth rate is consumption, which constitute 96.2%.
Okay.
That means it has resulted in the higher current account deficit. Okay. That means you have less dollars. And you have to import the stuff.
I'm glad you've explained that, because we've been having that debate on growth rate, the growth rate of last government for a while now. But let me come back to you. I'm going to go to Dr. Idris. Dr. Idris, in terms of, as far as, we are talking about the fact that we, according to Shakil Sahab, is saying that we don't have that kind of consumption, we don't have that kind of, if we look at our salaries, or people don't have that kind of capacity. If you compare it to all over the world, we're a third world country, we have our limitations to begin with. In the kind of scenario that we are experiencing at this time, how do you expect things to go in the next couple of months? Because of course, today also, I think, if I'm not wrong, interbank dollar it was, I think, 207 or 208. I may be wrong, but it seems to be, it doesn't seem to be coming down. Overall, how do you see it?
Thank you, MAHRUKH, for inviting me. Let me say that this is an unusual situation.
Okay.
Everyone knows that the inflation would be unprecedented. Now the question is how to deal with it. Me, Rame Saab and others, few would not have an ideal situation. So what I would say is that the country should run an innovation challenge.
Okay.
Ask people what would be the best solution to deal with the situation, and give them 3-4 criteria.
Okay.
That the solution should be least inflationary, should have least impact of growth, should be politically viable, and should be administratively viable. Now let me come to one solution that I can offer.
Okay.
This is an unusual situation. tell the people that this is an unusual situation and do what we do in unusual situations, treat it like a natural calamity. What we do in earthquakes, what we do in floods, what we have done in COVID. Do this. Ask the people, ask the welfare organizations to contribute, and whatever the funds are raised, use that to give relief not only to the poor class, but also to the middle class. The middle class would also be affected.
I want to come to that. I think that when we talk about the poor class, we talk about the budget also, and I think, last week we were talking about the budget. It does take into account the poor class, like you said, but not so much the middle class. That's one of the criticisms that's coming in, and I think that's a very pertinent issue that you've just raised. I'll come back to you. I'm going to go to Kaisar Saab. Kaisar Saab, there's criticism on your government. There are a lot of issues that are arising. Could have, if not been avoided, but perhaps there could have been better damage control if the PMLN could perhaps have taken these decisions earlier and not, and had not had this kind of delay that we saw in, doing away with the subsidies. How would you answer that?
You see, as Mr. Shakil mentioned about consumption, my plea is that all those countries, developing countries which developed recently, had export-led growth. This is my firm belief that we are not giving emphasis. Our consumption can be increased if we start exporting our product and if we have a foreign direct investment. That has been the crux. We have been only emphasizing on taking more loans. All of our finance ministers have only one motive, I feel, not to promote the economy, not to do other investment oriented things. All of the finance ministers are coming from the banking sector, and they are taking loans, and then they are spending those loans. You see, 85% of our GDP is now, loan is 85% of our GDP. Now, what I feel strongly that all these countries had export and the consumptions increased, the technology increased, and then direct foreign investment, we don't have the problem then of this current account deficit. We are asking for 1 billion or 2 billion from our friends or friendly countries or from IMF. But why are not we emphasizing and making environment conducive to investment? And our bureaucrats are just stopping everything. They are masters in making hurdles. The investor wants. I was listening to Mr. Dr. Salman in the last your program, and he rightly emphasized that what we are doing, we should have to facilitate. We should give more and more value. And our SMEs. What happened that we did not give loan to our SMEs. Only 7% of our loan is of the total loan is to SMEs, and 93% is to only some big importers or industrialists or some exporters. I don't know, mainly to the textile sector, because that is the only sector we have, industrial sector. So we should promote our new industries which have the technology where we should attract our foreign direct investment. And this is the ideal time because our dollar now, today's rate is 210. So this is attractive market for Pakistan. We should.
Okay, let me go to Dr. Salman Shah. Kaisar Saab, I'll come back to you. Salman Saab, what do you expect as an economist? Do you expect the dollar to slide higher? Do you expect the rupee to depreciate more? Overall, as far as the economic situation at this time is concerned, how do you look at things in the next couple of months? Regardless of who's in power, what politics there is, which government is there, at the moment, what the situation is, as an economist, how do you think things are going to fare in the next couple of months?
You see, we are really on a slide. The foreign exchange level every week is going down. And we have total uncertainty, not only in the financial markets, in the domestic markets, in the political arena, and no IMF program. Even the IMF is keeping mum on where do they stand. So I think that this is a classic case of creating a very big event in Pakistan during a global crisis and nobody in charge. So unless we start to put some things in place, starting with the IMF program, getting some support from our friends, shoring up the reserves, I am afraid we'll continue to slide. And this is immediate, I think, if you look at this last almost 8 weeks now, we have lost the rupee, the dollar has gained by 30 rupees. And that has really had a crushing kind of impact on inflation. It also impacts on every input into the manufacturing process, cost of doing business, and to top it off, the global oil prices continue to rise, and the food commodities which we direly need at this point in time, they are rising. So we have almost a perfect storm, and we don't have the sagacious leadership which we need at this point in time, because the political temperature keeps going up and up rather than bringing it down, cooling things down, and making decisions.
Right, let me come back to you. Salman Sahab, I'll come. Shakil Sahab, overall, in terms of, you heard what Salman Shah Sahab is saying. What is the way to avoid it, in your opinion, as far as, do you think that these subsidies now that have been done away with will have an effect? Of course, we've also seen, unless the IMF does commit to the next tranche, what do we expect? And do you think that that's likely to happen? What's your opinion on that?
Look, we have to look at the facts. We are talking about a subsidy and talking about the tough decisions. But I'm asking to the government, so tough decision for whom? For the common man or for the whole country? It's for common man, the tough decisions.
Okay.
I give you few facts. In this budget, if you look at that, they have the 15% salary raise for the government officials. Plus, there are the four allowances which have been merged to the basics. That means your all perks will increase. Housing, medical, transportation, everything will increase. On top of that, senior bureaucracy, they have executive allowance, and that would be around about 150% of the pay. Think about the scale and their thinking process. So for the elite class, so apart from these perks, the elite class, last year they have the subsidies of 1.7 trillion. This year it will be more, around about 2 trillion.
But the government maintains that they have taken initiatives to ensure that people...
That's what I'm saying. The common people is suffering. All the tough decisions are for common people.
Okay.
For elite, exemptions are here, subsidy is here, perks are here, either they have increased.
Okay.
So the thing is, what the government direction in this government or the previous government or any other government, the political elite of this country, they don't, I strongly believe, they don't own this country.
You're saying that overall it doesn't matter which political party there is, which political leadership there is, they're not in, if I'm not wrong, they're not in touch with the plight of the common man.
They are not giving any concentration. For example, you are every day you have a program. You invite these are politicians. Ask them, look, I don't want to listen the bashing of other political party. Tell me what is your share. If the PMLN and the PDM, the PP, PMLN and all other party, they are saying, so we are taking the burden of last 3.5 years. Then Imran Khan was justified when he was saying, I am taking the burden of 30 years. When you in the government, you have to bring the solutions, but not just you have to just blame each other. The only thing here, if we want to revive, there are two things, places where we can get the revival. Number one, agriculture sector, because you have to secure food. International market, their prices are increasing. Second, state-owned enterprises. We have the infrastructure of state-owned enterprises. We just need to run those state-owned enterprises on the business rationale, like steel mill. And steel mill can provide them, like telecom. The e-commerce is here, digitalization is here. We can use the telecom sector to revive the economy. But the problem is our intention are not good. For example, in steel, new industrialists are coming to the Pakistan to establish the steel mills. Why? Because we have ML1. We have to consider there is a construction boom, and there is we have to also build the special economic zones. There will be a huge demand for the steel, and we can use that demand by supplying.
I want to talk about more about the inflation and more about the issues as far as our economic issues are concerned. But the Foreign Minister Hina Rabani Khar has now confirmed, as far as the FATF is concerned, she's congratulated Pakistan. She says that it declares both action plans complete. International community has unanimously acknowledged our efforts. Our success is the result of 4 years of challenging journey. Pakistan reaffirms resolve to continue the momentum and give our economy its boost. Well done, Pakistan team, FATF. Pakistan Zindabad. So that's a good news, and I'm sure that it's very close to every Pakistani's heart, and I think it's one of those things. But we need every bit of good news at this time, considering the kind of situation that we're in. So a little bit on the FATF also. Before we continue, Dr. Idris, overall, as an economist, how do you see the effect of this also now on Pakistan economy?
The FATF so far, what happens if we are out of the grey list, then basically it prevents us from going to the blacklist. So that is good news for us.
Right.
But so far, FA and grey list hasn't affected us much in real terms.
Okay.
So it is good for optics, and it is good news that we will not be going to the blacklist.
Okay.
Now, if coming back to inflation,
Okay.
I would say that, as I said, that the government and the media needs to build a narrative that this is an unusual situation and we need unusual measures.
Okay.
The unusual measures again could be, for example, what we have been doing in floods and earthquakes, etc., that the business community and the real estate tycoons, they come and they give donations, etc. There is a salary cut, one-day salary cut, etc., for the government employees, etc. This would raise money, and if we can somehow include the political parties into this, and they go for the relief, then the political parties would like to excel each other in providing relief, because they would have to buy votes for this.
But,
and perhaps in this way we would be solving to an extent the inflation
Let me
problem.
go to Kaisar Saab with this. Kaisar Saab, do you think? Kaisar Saab, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Kaisar Saab, I hope you've been following. Dr. Idris is suggesting a solution. He's saying that if we can somehow look at this as an extraordinary situation that it is, in terms of a crisis that it is, and act accordingly and try to rope in all political parties and try to have organizations help out. Do you think that's a viable alternative to the kind of across the board political bashing that we are seeing, and whodunit kind of scenario where we are saying, political parties talk to each other, at each other, about who's responsible for this?
You see, I fully agree with you. It is the need of the time that all political parties should get together. This is a crisis period for Pakistan. Our Prime Minister, Mia Shahbaz Sharif, have on a number of times mentioned and stressed that there should be a charter of economy. And we have been emphasizing that. Without that, and this is the crisis, we should get together and first of all bring our economy out of this crisis. Then, of course, we can have our own political manifestos. We can adopt that. We have a difference of opinion, maybe, but some minimum common agenda should be discussed together, and that is important for the country. So I have already emphasized that.
But
this is the
Kaisar
time.
Saab, when you talk about a minimum agenda, or you talk about having some sort of relationship or a working relationship, then that precludes the kind of, there's a lot being said by your political party also against PTI. So having them play ball or having that kind of relationship, don't you think those kind of words, those kind of inflammatory remarks are counterproductive?
I feel that there has been more allegations from the PTI. Of course, maybe some responses from our party, but I don't want to go at this juncture on a blame game. My point is, this is the time. Whatever any party said, we should come together. We should forget the past, and we should resolve these matters amicably. And what I feel, this is the best opportune time, because Pakistan currency has been very weakened. 210 to $1 is attractive to all foreign investors. We should open up our market. This is the time. If we open our market, there are huge institutions and huge companies, many companies in the government sector and even in the private sector, we should attract the foreigners to bring technology and then to increase export, and we can get benefit from that. And all these countries I mentioned already, that this is the only solution. The developing countries did export-led growth. We should, and export can only be increased not from textile sector, which we have already been working on that, but some other sectors. There are various other sectors. There is IT sector and many other sectors. Electronic is there, one very big field. So we should attract the foreign direct investment. This is the opportune time, and we should privatize our nationalized units.
But Kesar
So
sir, the ball is in your court. The PMLN is part of the government at this time. Are we not doing those things? Are we making headway towards those initiatives that you are suggesting? What is the situation?
Yes, you are very right. We are not doing it. We are, because this is not this is a coalition government. Maybe People's Party has a different line of action, and Muslim League may have a different strategy. But we should get together. That is my point, and we should try to evolve some solution. Because
but you already are an amalgam of different political parties. PTI is not there. Let me go to Salman Saab. Salman Saab, we've already had this discussion, you know, a number of times on an economic charter, on trying to get political parties to, you know, have some kind of common agenda, but that doesn't seem to be happening anytime soon. In that kind of a scenario, according to you, you said things are looking quite bleak, and but this recent FATF, you know, this removal from the grey list, doesn't it seem to suggest that the world is perhaps looking at us slightly differently, more optimistically?
Well, I think this also indicates how polarized we are, and we cannot even give credit to people who worked hard to get Pakistan off the FATF list, and we are just trying to claim victory and not share it. So I think Pakistan, the political polarization is beyond redemption, and we have to take that as given and start working on ensuring that Pakistan gets on to an IMF program, Pakistan gets on to a stabilized economy, and then Pakistan gets on with the major reforms that are needed. And as
Salman Saab, you agree with the decisions taken so far? You think there was no other way around the kind of subsidies, the fact that we had to do away with them, right?
Yes, but we have taken too much time. We have taken almost 8 weeks. The rupee has gone down by 30 rupees to $1. We have exhausted our reserves. We have created a lot of uncertainty. We speak with a confused voice. Our finance minister creates more turbulence in the markets than calm it down. So I think we are behaving in a very amateurish manner as far as this crisis is concerned. We know that we have an economy which has very major structural problems. It's an inward-looking economy, and we have an energy sector which is primarily import-based, and that too a very expensive power and expensive imports for internal consumption and not really for export. So we have to transform this economy into an outward-looking economy, which means that we have to have exports, we need to have lots of investment, we need to have a smaller government, we need to deregulate, all those things. But when you look at the budget, when we look at the budget is so enormous and it is so traditional that nothing has really changed.
Right, let me come back to you, Salman Saab. Shakil Saab, in the kind of scenario there is, I don't think that, you know, we can have the kind of agreement we would like, politically speaking, between political parties. How do you think we can proceed from here? Initiatives that we can take, like Idris Saab is talking about, deal with it as a crisis situation. I think perhaps that's the right way to go forward, because we are, whether we acknowledge today or maybe 4 months down the road, in the wake of that kind of crisis?
I think if we go for economic emergency, it will have more repercussions for our economy and our country.
Okay.
I am deadly against the charity.
Okay.
Put the people in work, don't make them beggars. And that is due to that mentality of the begging, that is the real problem of this country. If you have to give the money to the people, ask them to work. And productive force, either they are doing very minor things, but they will be contributing in the economy, which will help you in the long run to build your production base, which is a prerequisite to come out of crises.
Okay.
And one thing and second thing, there is no immediate relief or immediate recovery of economy, because in economy you cannot fix in 5 years, 10 years. It takes decades to build the economy. What is required at this point of time? At least we have to set the direction, which is not happening.
But the problem is continuity also, right? You don't see the kind of continuity one would like.
Look, Salman Shah Sahab was telling us that they took the 8 weeks. They could not make a decision. But he is not telling us how many weeks PTI has been taken to give the wrong subsidies.
Right, we have to go for a short break. We'll be back to talk more about economy and inflation. Right, welcome back. Unfortunately, we have very little time left. I'll go to Dr. Idris. Dr. Idris, we were earlier talking about, also Charter of Economy and the fact that we can't, Dr. Salman Shah said that there's a lot of polarization. We are also seeing that, there's no doubt about that, in terms of, political relationship between political parties, and it doesn't seem likely that we are going to get that kind of charter on economy. What are your thoughts on this?
Look, as far as charter economy is concerned, political parties are expected to fight elections based on their policies and manifestos.
Right.
Charter of economy would essentially mean that all the parties have a single manifesto.
Right, that's one of the arguments.
Because the People's Party, for example, is not in favor of privatization. The Muslim League wants privatization, and so on and so forth. The PTI is in favor of social safety nets. So what would they go with to the public with their policies if they have a charter of economy? So I think this is basically a non-starter. Regarding, if you allow me to add what Ramesab said about charity, I was not, when I'm referring to relief, I'm not saying about charity. What I'm saying is that this is an unprecedented inflation. Even if a person has an income of 1 lakh, has 4 or 5 months mouths to feed, 2 children to go to school, this would mean he has nothing left in his bank account at the end of the month. So what should he do? Take the kids out of the school and send to a lower fee school, or shift his house from to a lower rent house? What should he do? So I'm asking about providing this kind of relief, and the political parties and the welfare organizations should come forth, aided by the government, to solve this problem. And perhaps,
are you saying a public partner, a private partnership?
Here comes the problem. The government did not invest on education. It is the fault of the government. Government did not invest on the health. They gave the Sehat card for the private sector. They did not build the infrastructure. They could build the infrastructure of the government, which will be the sustainable solution, not the one-time activity. So here comes we need to tackle the issues.
Agreed. There are a lot of reforms that are required to enhance growth, which would be good governance, privatization, so on and so forth. But all these reforms cannot happen in 1 year.
But we keep talking about that.
We have to talk about the immediate problem. We have to.
You're saying that take these emergency measures to combat inflation.
This is a hunger problem.
Which is on a, right, okay, fair enough. Kaisar Saab, in terms of the kind of measures we can take to combat what is, an extraordinary situation, what about, regardless of that, what about reforms? Is your government still just trying to do damage control? And it's too early to expect you right now, to think about the kind of reforms that then talk about sustainable, target sustainable measures that will deal with issues on economy, or, you'll get to it later. How will it work?
You see, this is a very good news that unanimously acknowledgement of all those countries in Berlin. They agreed that Pakistan has fulfilled their targets. Now, this is the mutual success. This is the thing. This has been because the Muslim League started working on it to find solution of this fat of out of grey list, and then PTI worked on it, and now again it's the Muslim League who the party who then succeeded in getting such a response from international community. So this will enhance our foreign direct investment, and this is a very good news. And I think it's a mutual success. We should give credit to both the parties in this aspect, which work. And today our government is a coalition of Muslim League and People Party. So, and Hina Rabbani comes from People Party. So this is the one example that how, if we work together collectively, how much we can get success. So I think there's a great opportunity. This is the proper time. If, for example, there is not a unanimous decision about privatization, I think for investment there is no hurdle. All the parties unanimously agree that there should be a conducive climate for the investment, and investment is the only option. And also we should encourage SMEs in agriculture sector and in our small manufacturing side. So there's a great opportunity in Pakistan. The IT sector, I think next year will get much more success. So of course there's challenges.
But you do agree that there is a lot of merit in continuation of sound economic policies, which we haven't seen in the past, regardless of whichever government there has been.
But I feel now there has been this more and more emphasis, and our political parties have realized that if they go, they will not go collective action, they will not take. It is very difficult to bring our country out of this mess. And I think the realization is there, and we feel that out of this tussle we had long time, there has not been fruitful results. And I feel that even the political party will come to table, and there will be some minimum common agenda for the benefit and development of Pakistan. There is opportunity in this challenge. We think that there are opportunities, and we should get together. We should give credit to all of them. We should not make allegations to each other at present. This is the time to work for the country, and I feel that the realization is there, and we will find some good solution very soon. This is a good news. Part of report, they have unanimously accepted that we have done well, and they will send a mission, and by October next, you see the foreign direct investment, many investors will come to Pakistan. They will have investment, particularly China. I feel there's a great opportunity that China also going to have some industrial zones, and they also want to shift their industries, factories which are labor oriented to Pakistan.
Right. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for being with us, Shakeel Ahmed Rame Saab, Dr. Idris Khwaja, Kaisar Ahmed Sheikh, Dr. Salman Shah. Of course, Kaisar Saab raises, when he says that there should, instead of quibbling over whose credit it is, it's really about acknowledging that this is good news for Pakistan as far as FATF is concerned. The efforts that Pakistan has been making in trying to get out of the grey list have finally been realized. We will, of course, see a visit from their task force to look overall, but as far as the situation at this time is concerned, it looks like, and there is confirmation that we will be out of the FATF grey list. This is huge news for Pakistan instead, and we should all celebrate it, regardless of which political party, whatever political affiliations anyone may have. And perhaps this is a good time to also realize that there needs to be a working relationship between political parties for there to be any good or sound results in terms of the economic crisis, in terms of the overall inflationary crisis, price hike that we are seeing at this time, also the global crisis, which is also having its own results in Pakistan, a third world country. Thank you so much for joining us today on Perspective.